there's sometimes like we were taught morals and values, and we were also taught about bullshit. And we were taught in subtle ways. But as you know, I know cartoons made by adults for kids always had messages for adults. Those messages were key for us as kids. And so when you listen to him and people are like, what is he saying? Who is he talking? Because and sometimes he is talking to his people. But other times, all you're hearing is asatana sana squash banana. The reason you're hearing that is because it's like you're listening to him and he's like, you're a baboon and I'm not. And you're like, where have I heard this before? And when I say plan, I said plan in my face, but I wanted to come back with my final analogy because that hit for you, did it not? When I said squash banana, you were like, oh my God. And you were 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 watching this on repeat. And when you're learning your words, you're repeating. It wasn't Zazu, Rafiki. You're repeating him. Sana squash banana, and you're repeating it. But once you learn words, you stop doing that. And you're like, what the hell is he doing? What is he doing? You that feeling right there was you learning. That is why it resonates. Because you have somebody who's literally a baboon messing with you every day and then hitting you, punching you in the stomach, doing things that are so painful, and then being like, "Oh, you're a baboon and I'm not." The fuck you are. You are indeed. You are. And with that, I promise I'm done.
Oh
I'm
my God.
done. I have had it. Because that's all that's all I got. I know we weren't planning to end the show on that note, but to me, I felt like the what you heard tonight was some bullshit from that man. Do not vote for that. I can't tell you who to vote for. I pride myself on not doing that. But in your best interest, pick somebody else.
Live from the Unmuted Newsroom, this is Black Headlines by Black Alerts.
Good evening and welcome to Black Headlines Primetime, your daily digest of the stories shaping our world. I'm Alex Haynes, and joining me tonight is Tiffany Linnell.
Good evening. And yes, it is an evening full of news. It seems like it's never a dull week or a dull day. Maybe it's just me, but good evening.
Hmm.
I am Tiffany Linnell.
Is it like the days are now as, not as dull as they used to be, or are we just sensationalizing everything? That wasn't sensational at all, but you
I
get
got
what
your
I'm
point
saying.
though.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I was thinking about the post debate, post that also wasn't sensational. Post VP debate debrief show that we did,
Mm.
and how both of us said it was kind of boring, but like I'll take boring because we live in so many unprecedented times. It's okay to have a little bit of precedented times.
Let's call
Um,
it anticlimactic.
all of that, all of that, all of
Yeah,
that.
I had a visual, but I won't do that this early in the show.
Okay, okay.
What's most important? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Y'all forgive the hoarseness of my voice. I'm getting over a cold, but I'm doing much better than I was this time last week. it felt like I needed all of the medicine and drugs in the world in my system last week. So
Do
I'm doing
you
all
feel
right.
like it's a seasonal thing, or is it just you know?
It could be a combination of things. I've been doing a lot of traveling, so I think my body is tired. It definitely the seasons are changing, so that's part of it. I have asthma, but also I'm not too far from where the biolab fire and explosion happened in Georgia, so I don't
You
know if
know,
that's
I saw
impacting the
some
air.
buzz about that. And typically I click on most things Georgia, but I didn't click on it. I did see people saying that they had to, and I don't know why. Something about it, I just wasn't drawn to it. So you probably should inform people that are not in the Georgia
Okay,
area. Because I'm
okay.
like, chemicals, plant, sounds American. Sorry that happened.
Oh
And I just
no.
kind of I left it there. But I'm sure it sounds like it was much worse than that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's a pretty bad situation. There was a shelter in place. Some people, I have a couple of friends who evacuated their place, some other friends who did a shelter in place, but it essentially caused a huge smoke cloud of chlorine gas over the area. But this is not the first fire and explosion at this lab. So now there are some investigations, and the community is trying to get them to not open the lab back up. So
So
who
is it
knows
like,
what
I
kind of
mean,
impacts
I
there will be.
expect labs to have explosions. You know, science makes the wrong thing. I mean, people in their homes, they're
Not like
mixing
this.
peroxide and
Not like
pine.
this.
Okay.
Not like this. This
All right.
this this was very big. So if you have not heard about it, Google Biolab Congress, Georgia. Um, and that'll yeah, that's not part of our stories tonight, but
That's crazy.
I've been
No,
asked a couple of times if that is also impacting me. I don't know. Um, I'm not too far from the area, so who knows what the impacts are, but I'm here and I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. And
Amen.
I'm gonna leave it there. I not to say that you went pretty long, but I'm here. And that's
Okay.
you know, that's where we are
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
But what else? What? I don't know how else to say that. I'm here and I'm maintaining. And maintaining is, one thing. I think surviving is like people say, scratching and surviving, whatever. I think that I would say that I'm really good because uh I keep choosing me. Not the
Mm,
place. I mean, not this is not the show for that. But I mean, overly and abundantly, and I'm using those words because they resonate for some people because they only attribute those words to one thing or one being, but not oneself. And I think that's abysmal. But to say less, because that you're not lifting yourself above anything. You're just lifting yourself. I say that to say that I've chosen me in so many situations that I've already, as you know, I've disconnected from a lot of chatter. So unless you're
mhm.
reaching out to me directly, it's most likely I didn't see any, unless I'm like on a plane, on a train, and I can sit there and scroll. I don't. So I've been in the 90s for the last 2 weeks, um, which is actually a real place. So not like
Oh my goodness.
I didn't escape into it's a fictional land, but I'm optimistic because I see a lot of things that were happening in the 90s while I've been visiting that are happening today. And look, we're still here.
We are still here, and I'm not trying to get us off on a tangent before we get into tonight's headlines, but you and I have been talking about revisiting old shows. And I won't say some of the old shows I've been watching because that will really date me, but we've also been talking about the repetitiveness and the cycle of the relevance of topics and issues that these shows in the 90s, late 80s and 90s in particular were hitting, and how they kind of were beyond their time but also were timely for the time that they were showing, but that a lot of these scripts and shows could have been written today. So how do
What
you
I'll say to that
balance the
is
hope with that?
those shows are now a part of history. And so I think in the same ways that we
Ouch.
found follow me, in the same ways that we
Okay.
found um repressive governments in this country choosing to ban history that they don't want taught, you can imagine that some of these shows, once they realize that that information exists in there as well, you can expect these shows that you love to be banned. So don't get stuck. I mean, and I'm speaking to a certain generation that only knows streaming, and you've never owned anything, like you never had a tape or a album cover or a poster on your wall because it's just been downloaded. Now it's not really downloaded; it's saved offline, but it's still not yours. I would say go get some things and make them yours. I don't know if you need to buy a DVD player. You can get them and license them for yourself. But I fully expect some of these things to be not available for the same reasons. Because if you see the message that your messaging is effective if people are ignorant or if they don't know history. So if you don't teach history, that's one thing. If they weren't there, like we can't assume that they weren't there. I run into people all the time. I mean, they tell us that we're from the 1900s, which we are. So there are people that live in that were born in this century that they just don't know. They'll see it in a show. They still don't know what it is. Infants, but you people that have children, you discovered that your 5-year-old doesn't know what a regular telephone is. They've probably only ever known FaceTime. Like a regular phone ringing would freak them out. So don't talk about something like a caller ID box that used to sit next to the phone. Like, you know, so when they see those things, they get curious. We just had a resurgence of a whole generation wanting to go get flip phones because they felt like they were being followed, which they were. God. But I just think that I wouldn't count that out. But overall, I'm doing well.
Well, amen. I'm glad to hear that. What's our first story tonight?
First up tonight, TD Bank has reached a $122 million settlement with the Justice Department over allegations of its failure to report suspicious activities linked to money laundering. Now, riddle me this, Batman. Why would a bank be accused of money laundering? In what Anyway, these compliance failures stem from 2013 to 2016. The impact of this settlement and the penalties on the banking sector is not known at this point. But this also is a good picture and a snapshot of how long it takes the Justice Department to get justice.
Yeah, it does take them a minute to get justice. And 2013 to 2016.
Yeah, right. And so that's about 10 years, you know, since the crime began, that you're now seeing a penalty enacted on them for something that was done. If you want to put that into the frame of reference of people that have recently become felons or will become charged with more felonies from the Justice Department, how long it may take for those cases to be processed. Some of those litigants may be dead.
I can't.
But that I mean, so when you do business with your bank, you are assuming that you are putting your money into a reputable, honorable institution that not only values your business, but is taking care of your money and likely not doing anything illegal with it.
Yeah, you don't anticipate that. But money laundering, like for a bank to deal with money laundering, you pled guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. And
you only plead guilty because you are.
You only plead guilty because you are. They will pay approximately $3 billion in this settlement. And it's the 10th largest bank in the United States.
So what are you saying by that statement? Are you insinuating that as the 10th largest bank, it's surprising that this is going on? Because I'm not surprised. Are we assuming that allegedly this could be happening in the other 9 in the
Yes.
top 10? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Um, because the Justice Department says they allowed at least 3 different money laundering networks to move $670 million through their networks. We
So, but
all
so okay, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, but I'm asking a question. The purpose
okay
of a bank is to what?
hold, store, manage money and investments.
Okay, I was gonna say I would argue that as a former bank employee and former investment bank employee that the purpose of the bank is to make money. That's what the first thing they said to me
Well,
in
yes.
orientation.
While we
So,
did both work for a bank.
so
Yes, I agree. Yes.
and so and I started to lose empathy for people and their overdraft fees because also I worked there, and it's kind of like, okay, you're not using your money. They're not like these fees. Now, yeah, there are gotchas, right? So I'm not in support of
Yes.
those. I'm not in support of anything that's manipulative, anything that is cunning, them changing the time or the date that you made the transaction so that you could overdraft. They were also doing that, Wells Fargo. I'm not advocating for that.
Right. Right.
But much like airlines, the majority of like they make instant money based off of baggage fees, seat fees. I think Delta
Yes.
alone pulled like $2 billion. These employees, their bonuses come from that excess.
From the fees. Yes. Yes.
S- Same thing happens in banking. So if your products aren't selling, and I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know if we have a disclaimer. I'm not that. Not a financial expert. If I was, I would not be doing this or ever talking to anybody. But
Touche.
their products, if they can't sell their products, which are checking accounts, savings accounts, if no one's purchasing or signing up, subscribing to their account so that you can put all your money in there so they can use it to invest, then they have to do something else. Is money laundering by definition the thing to do? Absolutely, absolutely not. When they started, because what happens, you know how the DOJ is. They come after you when you get greedy. And I would offer that the
Yes.
numbers that you gave, that's greed.
Well, I
See, it
think the
wasn't just
problem too is who they were allowing to do it. So
well, that's what
one
makes it laundering, right? Like partially.
partially, but also okay. So one of them moved more than 470. One of the networks moved more than $470 million in drug proceeds and other illicit funds through TD Bank branches, bribing employees with more than
But see
fifty-seven
that here's
thousand
the
dollars.
thing. Allegedly. That's the allegation against them. But drugs don't have
No, this
receipts.
is no longer allegedly. They pled
Well,
guilty.
listen, they've pled guilty, but this is the alleged crime, right? A crime that they
No,
pled guilty to committing. Well,
is
they
not
had
an
to allege
alleged
that they made to
crime.
committed the. Well,
They've got
here's the
proof.
thing.
It's
All I'm saying
fentanyl,
is that
narcotics.
you, but those things don't have receipts.
They've got enough receipts that the Department of Justice.
But I think you see where I'm going. I think that because I'm not saying that that this case is null and void at all, but I think it's interesting that they pled guilty because I do believe that before they got greedy, they would have gotten away with this. Now there are certain things in the United States that automatically flag your transactions. Any transaction over $10,000, which clearly drug cartels make, is flagged for our because did you pay taxes on that money? Probably not. So this rabbit hole spun out of control just out of probably stupidity.
Well, it sounds like
I,
they were, yes, stupid.
yeah,
Um,
because
but
like
like you said, greed. You
it's
got
the
greed.
greed because
You
if
got
you if
greedy,
my
and greed breeds
and the only
sloppiness.
point I was trying to make there is that if they were a smaller little drug mom and pop drug business. Tasha St. Patrick running it out of a daycare. It's not, you know what I'm saying? This, but the greed. It's the greed. So I hope they do. I mean, I wish that this had brought them to the ground. Not that I'm wishing any harm on the economy or for the people that have their money in that bank, but
Yeah, no, because this is
I just
probably a
wish.
drop in the bucket for them. I mean,
Oh, well, 100% in
three
assets
billion
alone.
dollars.
Like, come on now.
$3 billion to the largest bank, to the 10th largest bank in the US. They, as of July 2024, have $80.56 billion in net assets. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. In other financial news,
Ooh,
though, some
right.
people who may
That three
not be
billion really hurt them.
fine. So
But
much.
anyway, yeah,
um in other financial news, something that may actually maybe not hurt them but may not benefit them as much as they could use. Social security recipients will be getting a 2.5% increase in their benefits next year. It'll bring about $50, maybe a little less than $50 to the average check, which is under $2,000 on average. Now, this is a slight decrease from the, I think, 3.1% that of an increase that it was previously, but this is a cost of living adjustment. So they do cost of living adjustments depending on where inflation is and where cost of living is, different things like that. Excuse me, it was 3.2%. So the cost of living adjustment for 2024 was 3.2%, the highest increase in 4 decades in 2023 with an 8.7% rise, and in 2022 with a 5.9% boost to benefits. So in 2025, this will be the lowest annual rise since 2021. In 2021, it was 1.3 increase. And again, in 2025, it'll be 2.5%, which will be an additional about $50. Now, while that may help some who are receiving Social Security, $50 for some is, yay, I can get a little bit more fruit when I go to the store,
absolutely.
or I can actually pay for the medicine that I need to get because I've been deciding between gas and groceries, or gas and healthy food, or medicine and healthy food, or decisions. But for many others, $50 is like, thanks, what am I supposed to do with that? And for those who keep being told that, I don't know, the age needs to increase before we ever see Social Security benefits, to the point that we may never see them, it's also like,
Well, I mean, the
thanks.
belief in Social Security is also predicated on the information that you take in, right? So
Yeah,
it's often, and I don't want to go into that dark political place today, but when it's built to you as an entitlement, deceptively, when it's something that you pay, it's your money, literally,
literally.
and it's not even all of it. Like your what is taken out of your check, you're never going to see all of that back. And that is
No,
not the taxes that you pay. It's not grouped to,
no,
it's not, you're not stupid. You can look at your
no.
check stub. You can look. This is not anybody's entitlement. This is something that you get old, you should be able to be taken care of.
Right. I will never
But
forget when we were in college. I think we were in college the first time you showed me how to look up my social security statement. I was, I was like, why wasn't I wasn't taught this in high school, in economics class or anything like that, that I could go to the Social Security Administration's website and look up how much I had paid into, because we both had jobs in high school. Look at how much I had already paid into this benefit that will be due unto me, that now I'm being told it may run out. What do you mean run
don't
out?
get sick. Don't get sick.
Don't get sick.
Because you get on disability, and then what you get out of disability first is also your money.
Yes, that you paid into.
It's not an entitlement. It's just plainly facetious to say some malarkey like that.
but there are a lot of things in this country that we are taught are privileges, um,
Well, yeah,
that are not privileges, they are rights.
yeah, you're right. 100%.
They
You
are
are right.
rights. And we all
Correct.
have, well, according to the
Correct
Constitution, we all
again.
have the right of pursuit to liberty, justice, and freedom, but we also were three-fifths of human in those documents. So what do I know?
Not, what do we know? What do you know? What do I know? It just gets in, it just is just insane.
It's
Um
just insane.
and but you know what? I'm glad that the people that are receiving social security today, I'm glad that this cost of living increase is being accounted for because it's important. This is something that is often overlooked. Um,
Hmm.
Depending on the work that you've done, and how much you earn, even if you have both social security and a retirement account, it still may not be enough. Your income at that point is fixed, and I don't think that that is accounted for. You do see discounts for like seniors for certain things, but assuming that, living under that assumption that you can't keep raising prices because these people are priced out.
Yeah, literally.
um, yeah, but I'm glad to see that, this is something that they haven't. I mean, because they're coming for it. That's the other side of this. They're coming for it. And it's important that you pay attention to your statement. If you are in a situation that you're receiving Social Security, look out for that change that's coming to you very soon.
Yes, you should be notified along with your usual annual notices. Now, someone got a notice today that they have a trial date set. Sean Diddy Combs, aka Love, aka P Diddy, aka all the things that are listed in his indictment, because they were petty, but I loved it. Has gotten a May
I
5th
mean,
trial date for what is to be his probably first trial of a few, because I believe there's also a class action lawsuit that is pending against him. But this is in his sex trafficking case. He has a May 5th trial date. His lawyers were trying to exclude the evidence that was leaked by the government of the video of him severely beating and abusing R&B singer Cassie. But they have also been said to have collected 96 devices, 96 electronic devices that were seized in the raids in March of his Miami and Los Angeles residences. We've all heard about the cabinets and cabinets and cabinets of baby oil, um, among other
which is not
things,
a crime.
which is not a crime. It's a
I'm
little
speaking up
sus,
for a
but it's
comedian friend of
not a
mine
crime.
that went on a rant about his purchasing of baby oil in the winter because his skin gets ashy and it cracks. And sometimes he gets two. He don't want to be judged because of Diddy when he goes to the CVS. I feel you.
Buying two versus having
I
pallets of
mean,
it delivered
it
to
doesn't
your
matter if you're
ranch.
buying one and you're black. You already know that if the cashier is, if you are buying baby oil, the cashier is gonna be looking at what you about to do with that.
None of your
And we can
business.
thank we can thank Diddy for that speculation.
You know what? Um, he
The
is
diddler.
being he's being held at a federal jail in Brooklyn since
He
his
wants
September
out.
6th. Huh?
I said he wants out.
He wants out. It's not happening. His bail was denied again due to potential risk for flight risk, I'm sure, among other reasons. So his bail was denied. He's being held in a federal jail in Brooklyn. Um,
Because if at this point, if you let him out, he is gonna run.
Absolutely. He's
Because I
going
mean,
right
the
where
attacks
he's going to Bali with Russell Simmons, who's never stepping foot on US
never to
soil again.
return.
He's never returning here.
Never,
He
never to
also
return.
will go to jail. He'll go to jail. And
Well,
that
he will.
we
I
don't have
mean,
time to
the
discuss
process will
Russell's crimes,
begin.
but
But I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. He's never to return
he's never coming
because
back.
he
No.
too has allegedly been accused of many crimes.
Many sexual assault, rape, many.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Hmm. Allegedly. So I'm sure we
I have been
there.
sued. Okay.
Listen, we have been
I
sued.
just,
So
I just,
allegedly,
I,
okay,
allegedly.
allegedly, um, he is allegedly not returning. So we believe that Diddy's bail is
He's
being
doing
released.
yoga every morning. That is what he's doing.
Hmm. Is um I believe that we will probably be able to watch this trial because it'll be in a federal court. Um, so hopefully the cameras will be allowed unless his lawyers ask to suppress that as well. We don't know yet. But anyway, the trial date is set for May 5th. If it was going to be televised, would you watch it?
Yes, because those are the types of events that bring me back to social media.
I get that.
And it's less
I
that
get
I'm out. Yes, I'm also going to write about it and probably sit and talk about it. I don't really like the Diddy trial is not something that I really want to be a commentator on. Like I will report it. It's an egregious case. So I don't want to be a part of the commentary teams on that. Let me provide the straight facts, perspective maybe in my writing, but you get because the people that are going to be commenting on this, they're going to be caught up in all types of like just like the people that have gone to these parties that need to be contacting their lawyers. Like if you've been seen, spotted, and if you've been seen at a Diddy party, you've been to one anytime between 2004 and 2024, probably before then. But things were grainy. They had big, what the cameras was like. They were still in the parties. That was still going on. But also, Curtis Jackson is going to release a film of decades of footage that he has in addition to the myriad of lawsuits that you could be called to testify or called as a witness, like see your attorney,
Yeah.
see your
Yeah.
attorney. I gotta
Yeah.
think about there's a guy that we listened to going up on the radio. He used to talk about being at these Diddy parties every time there was a party out on Star Island, having the time of his life.
Oh my
And he's got his
gosh.
own bucket level about his own bucket of allegations, but he
I
was there.
forgot all about that.
He was there. And
Okay.
what brings me, I know I shouldn't be doing this live when we're talking the headlines, but here at this network, we did have someone say when we were doing Surviving R. Kelly that they said live on our air that they were surviving blank radio station. Um, sorry. That I mean, because I think that just hit you as well.
It
It all comes
did.
together. It all comes together. Um, uh,
We've been doing this a long
mm,
time.
mm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Next story. Wow.
the diddler. Now I gotta
Not
stop
the
saying that
diddler.
because I've never said that until tonight. So I don't know why I keep saying the diddler.
The diddler
But
is
I did
crazy.
watch. I watched a video on what happened to Sizzler, and then right after that, there were memes like when they were calling him the diddler, and they had Simpsonized him.
Okay.
Uh, let's change the pace a little bit. A somber update in the case of Tyre Nichols. And you may remember this case. 5 Memphis police officers brutally beat him and killed him, and they are set to face trial over that brutal beating. Now, at this point, the charges facing these Memphis officers um, are
They
severe
are they're
and
very severe.
severe, and uh, they
Two
kind of
have been
coincide.
put on home detention.
And my struggle with getting this out is not only are they have they been put on home detention, I want it to be clear that the cries a culture of people were silenced literally by the same white supremacists that have created this violence against these people.
Right.
And so when you when we have cases like this and people tout, what a dark time that led to, but out of it we got body cams and police are wearing body cams nationwide. Yet they still commit these same heinous crimes with them on. Some
With
of them
them
boldly
on.
turn them off.
Right.
So I don't want to hear that we had a story a couple weeks ago about a lady that had an altercation with a police officer and he responded that I don't want to hear any of that black crap.
Right.
I don't care what you want to hear. I would like to hear as much black crap as necessary so that senseless deaths like this cease. Because there's no logical reason that this specific demographic of people should have to endure the brutality and constant beratement from these types of peace officers that literally have a job to protect and serve. They have one job definition. So as
That
I
they
was kind of
don't
going
do.
through this, it just we can talk the facts about what's happening to them, but what we need to address these preventive measures that were put in place that didn't work.
Not only did they not work, I have a few issues with this case, and I some many of them I have with any case of an unarmed uh, person being brutally beat by police officers. Um, so first, the update, just to get through that, is two of the officers, Tadarius Bean and Justin Smith, will be on home detention with GPS monitoring until sentencing. Demetrius Haley will stay in jail because he was said to have been accused and found guilty of more severe civil rights crimes. So this is their federal trial. This is not the criminal trial. This is their federal civil rights trial. They still have to face the excuse me, the five officers still have to face the second-degree murder charge in state court where they pleaded not guilty, even though Mills and Martin are expected to change their pleas, and the trial date has not been set for that case. So just to be clear, this is the federal case, with the civil rights charges that we're going through. Now, one of my many issues with this case is, yes, this is a piece of justice. One, no justice is going to bring back 29-year-old Tyre Nichols, who was severely beaten. On body cam footage, you can hear them taunting and laughing as he is suffering on the ground from his injuries that he later was succumbed to and died at the hospital. So at 29 years old, you all severely beat him after a traffic stop, and he was near his home. My other issue with this was five black officers, five black male officers severely and brutally beat and allowed this young 29-year-old black man to lay on the ground and suffer, to later succumb to his injuries at the hospital. And
Yeah,
you
never mind the
thought
fact that
that
they
you would get away with this because of the qualified immunity that white officers and other officers tend to have their representation used in cases like these. But this case is now, they are making an example out of y'all's black asses. And
as they always do.
as they
I,
always
I almost
do,
said something that was going to be very inappropriate, and I just thank God
I,
for
I'm doing my best here.
because
Um,
I mean because uh, because I'm glad that you emphasized that because I was stumbling there because it's just like I want people to be clear, I have had countless Caucasian people that I've encountered to ask me, well, what about? I feel the same way about any cop because your
Yes,
job is never to be the judge or the jury. That is not the job.
ever, ever.
You don't have the qualifications. Most of the time, you don't have the education either.
Right, right. Or the training. If we really want to, when we compare our training standards in this country, whether it is law enforcement, correctional officers, any employees in the prison industrial complex in this country, and you compare them to the training, the education, the requirements that are required in other countries, we have one of the worst criminal justice, quote unquote, systems in the world, and in the terms of developed countries. um and uh, I know I said qualified immunity, and you reminded me last time that I just be saying stuff, so let me explain what that is for those who are new or haven't heard us talk about that. Qualified immunity is essentially the free ticket that is written into many laws in many states and many municipalities, that essentially, if a crime or something is committed in the act of doing one's job, if an officer kills um, uh, um, a citizen or kills someone in pursuit, um, whereas usually as a regular citizen, they may be charged with felony murder or second degree murder or manslaughter or something like that. Because they are an officer, if it's performed in their duty, in their job duties, then they can get what is called qualified immunity. Similar to how the Supreme Court just said that the president can have immunity for official acts. That's essentially what qualified immunity is, but it's usually used for law enforcement in cases like this. So when we're seeing body cam footage, when we're seeing, you know, a knee in the neck of someone, when we're seeing someone being put in a chokehold, when we're seeing police officers doing no knock warrants into apartments and killing the residents, when we're seeing all of these things and the officers keep getting away with it, it is usually due to qualified immunity, which needs to go. That's my spiel.
And it probably won't. Also, with officers that are trained by the IDF. I mean,
Well,
there's the full gambit of what happens continues to be egregious, abysmal, very frustrating, and I hope that these officers never see anything but the inside of a jail cell.
absolutely.
The
Them
end.
and many others, because we still don't have justice for Breonna Taylor and countless other names, to be
With
clear.
that, we got to take a 2-minute break. We're back in a moment.
Ever pondered on what the future holds for artificial intelligence? Picture an era where AI is more than just a buzzword. Imagine a time where AI isn't simply about learning patterns or predicting outcomes, but it's about crafting, designing, and bringing new ideas to life. Envision a reality where AI isn't just a tool for efficiency, but a catalyst for creativity. Now imagine a world where AI doesn't just learn, it creates. Welcome to the world of generative AI, where the future isn't just predicted, it's created. But what exactly sets generative AI apart from its traditional counterpart? It's simple. While traditional AI can analyze and make predictions based on data, generative AI goes a step further. It uses that data to create something entirely new. Imagine this: a script for an entire movie written from scratch by an AI. No human interference, no writer's block, just pure creative storytelling. Intriguing, right? That's generative AI for you. Now let's change the tune. Picture a piece of music unlike anything you've ever heard before. It's not composed by Mozart or Beethoven, but by an AI. A symphony of notes, rhythms, and melodies all woven together by an artificial intellect. That's the power of generative AI. Generative AI isn't just the future, it's the present. And it's changing the game as we know it. Ready to be part of this revolutionary journey? The Unmuted Academy online course on generative AI is the gateway to this exciting world. You'll gain insights and skills, from understanding the basics to harnessing its power. Imagine creating art or writing a novel with the help of AI, or perhaps developing a virtual assistant that can compose personalized emails. This isn't just about learning, it's about applying. Don't just witness the future, create it. Sign up for our course on generative AI today.
Live from the Unmuted Newsroom. This is Black Headlines by Black Alerts.
And another story hitting the headlines tonight. Pharrell Williams and LeBron James are set to co-chair the 2025 Met Gala. This iconic event is already making headlines. Now, Pharrell and LeBron will influence not just fashion and culture in next year's Met Gala, but it's expected to be the intersection of sports, entertainment, and fashion. Comments are going crazy about this change, and people are feeling one way about it. I have really no feelings on the Met Gala specifically. That's probably a lane that I should stay out of. I will say that I think it's interesting that this white ass event is all of a sudden so focused on Black people and what they're going to be wearing and their fashion choices as it pertains to like creating costumes.
I'm not as surprised. I'm surprised isn't the word. I do think that, let me back up. Let me talk more about the Met Gala. For those who aren't aware of what the Met Gala is or like the purpose of it, it's the big annual ball, essentially, where you start seeing on social media all of the celebrities who are following a theme, and they have on these elaborate costumes or dresses or outfits, fashions. It's all about the fashions. But essentially, this is a gala to benefit the Costume Institute. And last year they raised $26 million, and it just goes to the institute. And I'll leave it at that. So this year we have an all Black, let me not say all, mostly Black um, group of chairs. Every year there's a group of chairs. So last year it was Zendaya, J Lo. I'm missing a few folks,
Is
but
that
it's
Marcus
always
Houston?
no.
Oh,
Wow. There's always a group of
I'm looking
chairs
real
who
close. I don't know who that is.
I'm gonna go through the names.
Okay.
There's always a group of chairs that chair the event, go through the planning of what the theme is and all of that, and then the Met Gala essentially kicks off the exhibit for the season that will be at the Institute. So the theme of the exhibit, which will be open to the public from May 10th through October 26th, 2025, the theme is super fine tailoring Black style. Now, this theme was inspired by a book from, I think her name is Monica Miller. I can't find her name, but she wrote a book on Black dandyism, and it's called. I've lost my notes, but essentially, it is to highlight, celebrate all of the resilience, all of the brilliance of Black fashion. So something that Pharrell Williams said was, as you can see, he's one of the chairs. So we have ASAP Rocky, Coleman Domingo, whom I adore. I love Coleman Domingo. Lewis Hamilton, who was a Formula One driver, Formula One racer. LeBron is actually an honorary chair, and then Pharrell Williams, and then Anna Wintour rounds out the group of chairs as Anna oversees the gala each year. So Pharrell Williams says, We are the survivors of what is perhaps the most intense hardships, trials, and tribulations to ever bedevil a group of human beings. Not only do we survive, we carry the music, the culture, the beauty, and the universal language across an ocean. We gave it all back to the world and we continue to, and that is what the Met Gala will celebrate. Us, our gift, our history, our food, our resilience, our beauty, our style, our strength, and our authorship. Now, I will say I think that there is a there have been some critiques of the Met Gala, particularly last year when the Met Gala was going on against the backdrop of bombs being dropped in Gaza and Palestine. And you see all of this elegance on the red carpet. There was some celebrities who decided to protest it and to not go to the Met Gala because of what was happening in Palestine. And they said it just didn't feel right to go to such an extravagant event, where usually, like I said, they raised $26 million last year, and you're doing all of this, and women and children are being bombed. And so there are definitely a lot of critiques when it comes to what is really happening in the world. Why are we doing all of this extravagance? But this is the intention of this, at least, is to
Okay.
celebrate Black dandyism. I found the name of the book. Monica L. Miller's 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity. So dandy is supposed to refer to someone who's often male, who approaches fashion with great admiration, discipline, style, um, and that's what this exhibit is supposed to highlight and celebrate. So again, it'll be open May 10th through October 26th of next year, with the Met Gala, which is the fundraising event kicking it off.
And for those of you that are Met Gala fans, I really hope that it was inspiration to you and that you were convinced. I don't want to say that I zoned out while you were talking about that, but I don't care.
I am done. You know, a lot of people, especially on social media, a lot of people look at the fashions, who's wearing what, and to be clear, this is the
And a
theme
lot
of
of
the.
people don't. You're right.
A lot
There's
of
a
people
good balance.
don't. You're right.
I'm just
Is
on that
This is
other
the
side, and
theme
it's
of the
okay though.
exhibit. This is the
Yeah.
theme of the exhibit. So this is not the theme of the specificity with which they have to pick their outfits that will be given next year. This is the theme of the exhibit, but the theme of the outfits will fall in line with the theme of the exhibit. So that's why this is a big deal for some, and some people will be watching the Met Gala red carpet and seeing what
Absolutely.
everybody's
I mean,
wearing.
to insinuate that we all watch that everyone watches everything would just be a misnomer, right? It's be
Right.
disingenuous and just a lie. The AMAs were on. I heard it was the 50th anniversary.
I heard that too. I
I
didn't watch
I
a single
found out
second of it.
the next morning while I was drinking my tea and reading my newspaper. And then I was like,
That
"Oh, that's
that
nice
just
to hear." But
wow.
again, no longer for me. Even though Gladys Knight was there and she was there 50 years ago when they first began.
I think Mariah Carey was there too.
Yeah, I know, but Gladys sang mid Midnight Train to Georgia 50 years ago. They celebrated her. She sang that the train was pulling on in. Now, I don't like the way that sounds,
All right.
but she said that. That's not me. But I think with the dandy, I did not know that definition. So I do like that aspect of it. Um, also wonder if Dapper Dan took that and added it to his moniker.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of dandyism, especially Black dandyism, I do think of a Dapper Dan. I think of a Leon. I think of who styles Zendaya. I think of
I don't think that
Prince.
dandyism is a regular it's not a typical word that's heard in American vernacular.
It's not, and
which is why I said that I would assume that maybe for those people that were into Dapper Dan or followed people like that, that maybe that resonates because of the name choice. Dapper Dan's name could really be Daniel, for all I know. I don't know.
you know what?
But I just thought that if not, what a coincidence.
I mean, I meant in style. Dapper Dan would be, I think, a good example of when you think of dandyism. Um,
I mean, he's a great example of that, and his name is actually Daniel.
Yeah. But also when I saw it, I instantly went to Harlem Nights. It's one of my favorite classic movies. And that is a great example and exhibition of black dandyism. I mean, the suits were suiting in Harlem Nights. Um
100%.
so I think it's an interesting theme. I do understand and kind of agree with the exorbitance of it in kind of the times that we're in, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
the Met Gala.
yeah. I I'm gonna reserve the rest of my comments for another time and another
Okay,
show.
okay,
Um,
okay.
but we should keep it pushing.
To wrap this show up, it is two important days today. It is World Day Against the Death Penalty Day, and it is also World Mental Health Day. I'm going to do the latter one first because I have more to say on the first. But on I'm sorry, before we get to that, um, we want to share our thoughts, prayers, um, for all of those who have been impacted by first Hurricane Helene, but also Milton that just went through Florida. Um,
Terrible, terrible.
Horrible. It sounds like it didn't cause devastation in some of the areas that it was expecting. By the time it hit landfall, it downgraded to a Category 2 hurricane. But to be clear, that is still a devastating
I mean, that's about
hurricane.
85 miles per hour.
That's
That
about
is
85 miles
that's
per hour.
there's nothing. It's nothing to play with. It's still hurricane, and it's not the one that you
Right,
drink, and not the one you get from New Orleans.
right.
That's not what this was. This is
No,
devastation. This is 85 miles per hour coming at not just you if you're standing there, but whatever is in its way. I saw that there's an arena, and the name is escaping me right now. Jesus,
Tropicana.
I had it. Nah, the Tropicana. And it's crazy because they just tore down, they just imploded the Tropicana in Vegas, also this
Mm,
week. Um,
okay.
but the roof
Oh,
was
I
ripped
did see
off of
that.
the Tropicana. Yeah, it did.
The last
Um,
mafia building or something in Vegas. It was said is what it said allegedly.
didn't know that, but
I read
doesn't
that
put it past
somewhere.
me. There has been a long running rumor that the mafia is the shadow government of the United States, allegedly. Um,
Allegedly.
so it wouldn't surprise me. But on that,
Well,
on that, I think that this devastation is crazy. I know that there were people that, hopefully you've checked on your loved ones, um, people that have opted to stay. But one thing I will say that I did see a lot of reporters with egg on their faces this morning as they were stuttering through reports this morning. Well, the surge was not quite as we predicted, but there was a lot of damage and the wind was really strong. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's fine. I think that the sensationalizing of almost everything that we do is getting to the point that people are numb because we sensationalize everything's not breaking news. I got a breaking news button I could hit right now that would just throw a banner up and say breaking news right now. And then I would just tell you the next bullshit that I wanted to say. You know what I'm saying? I
my
think
lord.
that if and I get that Helene had just happened, it was not even cleaned up. And then here comes uh Milton.
Milton.
And the thing about Milton, people don't often understand this, but The hurricanes are named years in advance. We don't, not to say that they know which hurricane is coming, but they have names that are pre-selected. Um,
Hmm.
very
In
normal. I
alphabetical
wouldn't say
order.
normal. I wouldn't say normal, but just very European-esque names. Sometimes they have a little Latin inspiration to them. But they're alphabetical, as you mentioned, also male, female, male, female. So
Hmm.
Helene, which we had just 2 weeks ago, you guys really didn't meet.
Well, we did down here.
I after I, you met I,
Oh, no, no,
J.
no, no.
Yeah, you didn't
No.
meet K, L, but you did
No.
meet M.
Yes.
Right? So there were either tropical storms or hurricanes that were right in between that carried these names, and they fizzled out. But hurricane season is still in effect. So Milton was probably not it.
No, definitely not. And I saw them
So
start to talk about the aftermath a little bit, and not just talking about the aftermath, as in the damage, but the aftermath of what's next. Um, because the fact remains the same, regardless of what it was, the category that it was when it made landfall. This was a big hurricane, like, and the
massive.
way that it accelerated from Cat 1 to Cat 5 in a matter of hours, should, I'm not saying it will, should be just another example of how climate change has an impact on our weather systems. And I think that was the point that many meteorologists were trying to get across, is we
Well,
have been
but your
talking
problem
about
is
this for years.
you have your meteorologist trying to get the point across aside either a journalist or a commentator that is sensationalizing everything that just came out of their mouths.
Right.
So when you're spewing those two things at the same time, people hear the sensationalism.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to your grocery stores. And there's no water and no toilet paper. But important note, I know
Yeah.
we're out of time. I just want to say there have been 13 named storms in the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. This season usually lasts from June 1st through November 30th, and it typically
My
has
Lord.
14 storms. As I mentioned, there have been 13. Nadine, who came after Milton, her environmental conditions are no longer conducive for further development, and the system is moving past Bermuda. So we can look for, most likely, Nadine is not going to be a big threat.
Okay. Well, it wasn't just the hurricane that was a big threat. There were also 126 tornado warnings issued by the Weather Channel, in the midst of Milton occurring. So I
Yep.
saw some of the footage of some of the tornadoes that were hitting the ground. You mentioned, the Tropicana field. That actually was the holding site for a lot of the first responders, um, which is odd because the roof was ripped off very quickly. It's fabric. And so they said on the news this morning that it was basically covering the roof was basically covering the freeways like blankets or sheets, because it flew off so quickly, just from what was happening to it. So, um, this is in Bradenton, Florida, uh, and this was at the Tampa Bay Times. There was construction nearby, and this crane hit the building due to the wind. So it's definitely, though it may not be what was anticipated, it absolutely caused some flooding. The water was sucked out of Tampa Bay with the way that the hurricane was moving. So it just, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone impacted by that, and with those who are still dealing with the aftermath and impacts of Helene. There are still many people without power. North Carolina is still devastated. Parts of Georgia are still devastated. And recovery efforts have literally only just begun, even if they have begun. So please continue to share resources. If there's anything that we can share, just send them to us. Uh, at BLK Alerts on Threads or Twitter, and we'll gladly repost those resources as well. But I know that VP Harris and um, VP candidate Tim Walz and the president's office, the White House, have been tweeting out and sharing resources for shelter and financial resources as well. And just a note, your state government, your local and state government are supposed to be your first lines of defense and resources, and then the federal government. I just want to be very clear on that. Your state should be assisting you first. Now, the state is getting, some states are getting federal resources, but your state and local
Sending them
government are
back.
supposed and some are sending them back, or saying we don't need anything. But um, that's a different conversation. Anywho, um, now World Mental Health Day. Um, it is imperative, and in this country, unfortunately, we don't have nearly the resources or things that we need in order to care for our mental health. We pulled this. One of my favorite books is Black Liturgies by Cole Arthur Riley. She is an amazing author that wrote this book full of poems and affirmations and sayings. If you don't follow the account, highly recommend it. But this was an affirmation and a saying that is featured in her book, Black Liturgies. But on this World Mental Health Day, please care for yourself, and not just today, but every day. Life is really short, y'all. It's a lot happening. It's a lot going on. Alex said in the beginning, you were choosing you, and I think that is a perfect tie-in to this show, to this day, um, because you only got one you. So if you don't take care of
I
you,
think that's vitally important, and
is
I know that we are conditioned to hear selectively. Um, that never means to not, take care of the ones that you love and the ones that you cherish. But if you can't take care of you, and if you don't take care of you and ensure that you have the best you all of the time, you will never be
Mhm.
successful in your attempts to effectively take care of anybody else.
Period.
And so I'm not just
Period.
saying like you get to the point that where you're okay and then you start picking up. No, you get to your best self. You get to your
Yes.
best you.
Yes.
And when that those things that you are trying to take care of are pulling you back from that, it's time to reevaluate and see if they can take care of themselves.
Yes. That part.
Yeah. And
So
there's
take
nothing
care
wrong
of
with
you.
that. You get
And
one life,
tomorrow,
so do they.
right. And tomorrow is October 11th. It is National Black Girl Day off. So if you are a Black woman, take tomorrow off, because it's our day. So this is the Black Liturgy for World Mental Health Day. You inhale and exhale different affirmations. One of them is I know, you inhale, I know who I am. You exhale, I am near to myself. So if you want to see these, number one, I highly, 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 highly recommend purchasing Black Liturgies, the book. It's very good, especially if you do justice work or you're a health giver, a caregiver, or anything that is like that. I definitely recommend this. But you can see that if you are listening to this podcast, you can see it on the video version of this episode. It is also World Day Against the Death Penalty. I recently, literally today, just got back from a trip to DC where I had the opportunity to go to an incredible event put on by the John Center of NYU, the delegation of the European Union to the United States, the Embassy of Switzerland in the United States, and Hidden Voices and Theater Alliance, where they presented the stories of those who are incarcerated or were formerly incarcerated and on death row. I am wearing my Flock t-shirt. Flock stands for Faith Leaders of Color Coalition. It is a coalition of exactly what it sounds like. Faith leaders of color who we are working to have the death penalty and capital punishment abolished in the United States. We look at the policies and the practices from other countries, such as Switzerland, who spoke at the event that I just went to, who has had it abolished. There are 112 countries that had the death penalty abolished, and 87 countries that have yet to do so. But the United States has taken several steps backwards. We've mentioned before that before the Trump administration left office, they added the firing squad, the gas chamber, and other heinous methods for capital punishment back to the books. And certain states have added those methods back to the methods that they use, particularly as the drug cocktail used for lethal injection has begun to wane as certain pharmaceutical companies have begun to say you can no longer use our drugs in your cocktail for capital punishment. So this is something that I feel very passionate about. The death penalty got a lot of traction recently with the murder, because that's what it was, the murder of Marcellus Williams, which we talked about in one of our former shows. Um, Learn more about the death penalty in this country, learn more about the impacts of it, learn more about what it actually means, because there are quite a few who have been put on death row or death watch. Death watch is the final stages of death row. It is when they are getting their last meal, they are having their last conversations. Um, there are many who have been put on death row and death watch who were innocent, but were not deemed to be innocent until it was too late. And that is one of the primary reasons that I am against the practice of capital punishment. Um, and I won't get into all of the other reasons why I'm against it. But in honor of World Day Against the Death Penalty, I ask you, look up Flock, look up different organizations. There's probably an organization in your state that is against the death penalty. Talk to them, see why they're against it, see what work they're doing and how you can get involved. And while you're doing that, make sure you are caring for your mental health, because again, we all get one life. We are all just one or two decisions away from, or one or two decisions or occurrences of something that could be life altering. And you always say, it wouldn't have happened to me. I wouldn't have thought it would happen to me. So take care of your mental health. Make sure you are, as they say on the plane, caring for yourself before you try to put somebody else's mask on. Yeah, do that with your mental health, because it's important. That is going to wrap it up for us. You can get in touch with me at Tiffany Linnell on TikTok, at Tiff Linnell on Instagram and Threads. Alex, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm Alex Unmuted on everything, and also alexunmuted.com. Thanks for
Awesome.
joining us for Black Headlines Prime Time.
That's it. Good night.
That's it. That's all. And I like to say, namaste.